Welcome to the Restricted Handling Daily Intel Brief. This is what's been going on in Iran and the Middle East in the past 24 hours. The biggest story today is that the United States and Iran appear to have found an off-ramp after months of war, but this is more pause button than peace parade. On June 14th, President Donald Trump announced that a framework deal with Iran was complete. Tehran's Supreme National Security Council and Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi confirmed it. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who has been mediating, says the Memorandum of Understanding will be signed June 19th in Switzerland. The agreement reportedly halts military operations on all fronts, including Lebanon. It also calls for the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports to be lifted and for the Strait of Hormuz to reopen. After that comes a 60-day technical negotiation period on the hardest issues: sanctions relief, Iran's nuclear program, and economic reconstruction. So nobody should spike the football just yet. This is the first safe landing after the aircraft lost cabin pressure. The strategic center of gravity is Hormuz. Trump's messaging is all about oil moving again, ships getting underway, and global markets taking a breath. His Let the Oil Flow line was aimed at consumers, investors, energy importers, and every government watching fuel prices turn into a political flamethrower. Iran's messaging is more careful. Tehran confirms the ceasefire and blockade relief, but leaves wiggle room on what open actually means. That matters. A Strait of Hormuz reopened under normal freedom of navigation rules is one outcome. A strait reopened under Iranian-managed arrangements is a very different animal. Iranian-linked reporting suggests maritime traffic could be regulated by Iran in coordination with Oman. Mayor described reopening within 30 days under Iranian arrangements. So yes, oil may move again, but Iran may have taken a theoretical chokehold and turned it into a live global demonstration. Tehran now knows exactly what that lever can do. For Washington, this is a major narrowing of the original war aims. Early in the conflict, after U.S. and Israeli strikes on February 28th, the campaign was wrapped in big language about shaking the regime and giving Iranians a chance to challenge their rulers. The killing of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei created expectations that Iran's political system might crack. It did not. No mass uprising followed. Iran absorbed punishment, kept enough internal cohesion to negotiate, closed Hormuz, and forced the U.S. to prioritize de-escalation and energy stability. That does not mean Iran won the war. It means Iran survived the war politically, which in this neighborhood can sometimes feel like walking out of a Marvel fight scene with your jacket still on. Trump now says he never cared about regime change, a sharp pivot from the early war energy. The U.S. is now bargaining with the same power structure it initially tried to pressure into crisis. The nuclear file is still sitting there like the suspicious suitcase in the corner of the room. U.S. officials say Iran has agreed not to produce or acquire nuclear weapons. Tehran has made versions of that promise for decades. The next 60 days need to address enrichment limits, inspections, Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, and the future of damaged nuclear facilities. A senior Iranian official says Tehran would freeze nuclear activity pending a final agreement and could dilute enriched uranium inside Iran under a broader deal. Trump says a strong inspection regime will be required. Senator Lindsey Graham is already warning that any final nuclear agreement must go to Congress. DW, citing CNN, reported that Iran collapsed tunnels and mined entrances to underground uranium storage sites after Trump publicly discussed confiscating nuclear material. U.S. officials reportedly considered a uranium seizure operation in May, but did not carry it out. If those reports are accurate, any future attempt to secure that material by force would be far more dangerous and costly. That gives Tehran leverage and makes threats of renewed military action harder to execute cleanly. Lebanon is the immediate stress test. Iran and Pakistan both say the ceasefire applies there. Israel was not party to the U.S.-Iran deal, and Israeli officials have not accepted limits on their freedom of action. That is the live wire. On June 14th, Israel struck Hezbollah targets in Dahiyeh, the group's stronghold in Beirut's southern suburbs, after Hezbollah-linked activity into northern Israel. The strategic consequence is what matters. The strike nearly derailed the deal. Trump criticized the operation and reportedly urged Iran not to retaliate. Iranian officials told the New York Times that Tehran called off a planned attack on Israel after Trump's intervention. That tells us two things. Iran still wants to show it can protect Hezbollah and impose costs on Israel. But Tehran also wanted this agreement badly enough to step back, at least for now. Israel's position is different. Defense Minister Israel Katz says Israeli forces will not withdraw from security zones in southern Lebanon, Gaza, or Syria. Lebanese authorities are warning displaced residents not to rush home because Israeli forces remain in the south. The paper says ceasefire. The ground says, we'll see. Hezbollah is entering this moment under pressure. The IDF said it killed Ali Musa Dakduk on June 13 in southern Lebanon. He was described as a senior Radwan force commander with deep IRGC Quds Force ties and links to Iraqi militia networks that targeted U.S. forces. His death matters because Hezbollah has already lost experienced commanders since 2024. Losing another regional operator weakens the bench. Inside Iran, the deal is landing unevenly. Many ordinary Iranians are exhausted and relieved. Some ask the most human question imaginable after months of war. What was all that for? Opposition activists who hoped the conflict would topple the Islamic Republic are frustrated. Ultra-hardliners are furious, targeting Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, with chants accusing them of compromise. President Masoud Pezeshkian is pushing unity and stressing that major decisions had Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei's approval. Markets loved the announcement. Brent crude fell about 4% to below $84 a barrel. Japan and South Korea saw major market jumps. European indexes rallied, but shipping is not going from danger zone to cruise control overnight. Reuters reported 155 tankers carrying oil and chemicals were still in the Gulf area as of June 15th. Japanese shippers said 38 Japanese-linked vessels were stranded and want details on mine clearance before moving normally. One LNG tanker, the Disha, was visibly moving through the strait in early reporting. U.S. allies are welcoming the framework, but with conditions. Britain, France, Germany, and Italy say sanctions relief should follow clear, verifiable nuclear steps. European leaders are emphasizing toll-free navigation through Hormuz. Japan is focused on whether safe passage actually happens in practice. Italy signaled readiness to support an international naval presence to help reopen the waterway. One final angle, the defense-industrial ripple effect. Israel expects new European orders for air and missile defense systems, driven mainly by fear of Russia and sharpened by lessons from Iran. Germany has bought Arrow. Finland has bought David's Sling. Israeli officials say Europe is also interested in Iron Dome. Moscow says it has no aggressive intentions, which is the kind of line Europe has heard before, usually right before history starts throwing furniture. Thanks for listening and being part of this community. If you're finding value here, a review, comment, or share helps more people stay informed. We also publish a daily intel brief on Substack at restrictedhandling.substack.com, where we go deeper on Russia, China, Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK. Stay safe and have a great week.